can't believe you've done this.
Hello and welcome back to another Diablo 4 build video, and today we have the Undead Legion build. So, to jump straight into some pros and cons of this build, we have a ton of single target damage and we do pretty okay against trash mobs, but there are some negatives, being that the minions don't really want to listen. Some will just run off into another room while you're fighting something and it gets kind of annoying. And then the other big con that I've noticed with minion builds is that they don't prioritize like objectives. So if you're having to do a dungeon where you have to kill blisters, they will target everything except for the blisters. So keep those things in mind, and let's jump into everything we got. So, first off, we have each time one of your summoned minions damages an enemy, they gain 21% attack speed for 3 seconds, up to 63%. This is huge, man. Having that 63% attack speed, and it's up all the time whenever you're fighting, it's super nice. We have Bone Prison spawns a pool of Blight that deals 75% bonus damage over 6 seconds. That's pretty nice, but it's not super necessary. Honestly, if you wanted, right here would be a good place to switch for, like, or actually I would put, you know, the summon more minions on your amulet and your two-handed weapon, and then move each time your summon minions damage something, move it down to one of your ring sockets. If you put a summon on your amulet, you'll get one more summon, and if you put the summon on your two-handed, you'll get 2 more summons. So you can have 4 warriors and, well, 4 extra warriors and 3 extra mages, or vice versa. Now, I do have critical strikes electrically charge the enemy for 2.939 seconds. This is really not that good of a heart. I just have not found a better one. We still are running the walking near a corpse automatically activates an equipped corpse skill. This is super nice. We don't have corpse explosion, but it will do a corpse tendril. I think it's every 3 or 4 seconds, which is super nice. And then anytime that our skeletons die, it will automatically resummon a skeleton. The one issue is you will have to fight to use this to buff your skeletons, because it will constantly be using up your skills, or your corpses. Down here we have your skeletons gain increased damage while alive up to 32% after 10 seconds. That is a super nice deal. It's 32% damage bonus almost constantly if you can keep your guys alive. Now down here we have Bloodless Scream. If you don't have Bloodless Scream, honestly I would prefer to run a one-handed weapon and a shield with this build, and then you could run a whole bunch of thorns and switch your skirmishers to defenders and get that extra thorns. But for right now, we do have Bloodless Scream, and it has a huge damage bonus for our dark skills. Your darkness skills chill enemies for up to 40%. Your darkness skills have up to a 100% chance to generate 9 additional essence against frozen targets. So we get a whole bunch of percent damage to frozen and chilled enemies. We get a whole bunch of extra darkness skill damage, and we get a bunch of cold resistance, which is super nice. But this is kind of just helps us with our resource management, and it gives us access to a little bit of CC. Now, right up here we still have Barrier on, and we get 2 ranks of Bone Prison off of these. Barrier, I think, is important for this build in particular because he is pretty damn squishy. We do a couple things to mitigate that as much as possible, but this is what we got running right now. Now here we have Decomposed can chain up to 2 additional targets. When Decomposed spawns a corpse, it has a 57% chance to spawn a corpse under all afflicted targets. Now, this is super useful because we give our minions a damage bonus while we decompose, and so being able to decompose up to 3 targets really helps with our DPS all around. Now I do have your maximum number of skeleton warriors is increased by 2, and I have that on my chest piece. Honestly, I would prefer to have it on this, but unfortunately I missed my chance. I don't have another aspect for the attack speed, and this is actually imbued with that, so I can't pull it off of this, so we're running it on our chest piece. Just know that it would be far better to run it on an amulet or your two-handed. Now up here we have, while you have 7 or more minions, your minions gain 17% increased damage reduction. That helps a lot with this right here. As long as they're alive, they get up to 32% damage, so this kind of helps keep them alive as much as possible. So to go into our minions and why we chose them, we went skirmishers, one because they get 30% increased damage. So really this build is all about boosting and multiplicatively giving our minions as much damage as possible. Really, I'm sacrificing all of my damage to really make the minions the star of this show. So we do skirmishers. Like I said, if you wanted to run a Thorns build, definitely run defenders with the second passive there. Over here on our mages, we're running our shadow mages. Every 4th attack, they fire an additional shadow bolt. You could run the cold mages if you have that aspect, making it to where they can cast a blizzard. I honestly just found that our overall damage is higher with the shadow, especially with some of our passives we pick. We can boost their damage. Over here we do take our bone golem. Mostly this is one of our forms of survivability. We can use him, he'll go taunt everything, and they'll go attack him and leave us alone. Now, if you were running a one-handed and a shield, feel free to run Iron Golem. I think he's super good, honestly. Probably even better. It's really just boils down to personal preference. So, to go through our abilities and what we chose and why, we went Decompose. Tear the flesh from an enemy, dealing a little bit of damage per second and forming a usable corpse with the flesh every 2 seconds. The damage is pretty lackluster, but we do get to form a corpse, which is important for buffing our minions and for casting corpse tendrils and all that kind of stuff. We come up here. If an enemy dies while being decomposed, you gain 10 essence. That's nice for resource management. And then Acolytes Decompose is the big one. You and your minions deal 10% increased damage to enemies who are being decomposed. So that's really why we went Decompose all around. Down here we went Blight. Unleash concentrated blight that deals a little bit of damage and then leaves behind a defiled area, dealing bigger damage over 6 seconds. Come down here, Blight slows enemies by 25%, which is nice. And then Supernatural Blight, once again, you and your minions deal 15% increased damage to enemies within Blight. So your basic combo is going to be throw out a Blight, your minions and you will get 15% damage increase, and then you'll start decomposing and they'll get yet another 10% damage increase. So it's just a quick way to give your minions 25% extra damage. Down here I did opt for the spiked armor. If you don't want any thorns at all, feel free to throw those, like down here would be a good option, or putting another point to that or whatever. I think having thorns is actually pretty nice for these builds. Your Skeletal Warrior Mastery is a no-brainer. It increases the damage and life of your Skeletal Warriors by 45%. Now right here we do take Bone Prison. This basically just cages the enemies for 6 seconds. And then we have that aspect of leaving a blight inside of it that deals 75% increased damage. Right here, if an enemy is trapped by Bone Prison, gain 25 essence. That's super nice. And then Fortify for 8% base life for each enemy trapped by Bone. I would say Ghastly Bone Prison is better. It makes all enemies inside vulnerable, but we do take Corpse Tendrils. all the way to Plague Corpse Tendrils. This is our form of vulnerable. Usually we'll cast Corpse Tendrils whenever all the enemies get sucked in, then we'll Bone Prison. So I just opted to have the Fortify. Now, one thing to mention with Bone Prison, and it's kind of a big negative, you can't control how long this lasts. There's a lot of times where you'll Bone Prison, and you'll kill the thing within 2 or 3 seconds, and then you're just standing there waiting around for Bone Prison to be up. I kind of wish you could demolish it or just walk through it. And the other deal is, you need to remember that your minions can't walk through Bone Prison, so whenever you use Corpse Tendrils, you kind of have to wait a second for your minions to converge before you use this, or else they'll just be standing around it like a bunch of jackasses. So just keep that in mind. Right here we take Death's Embrace and Death's Reach. This gives us damage to both close and far enemies, plus a little bit of tankiness to our close enemies. Skeletal Mage Mastery, once again increasing life and mage's damage by 60%. I already went over it. Corpse Tendrils, it will slow, stun, pull, and make those enemies vulnerable. We do get Necrotic Carapace for the Fortified generation whenever minions are, whenever a corpse is formed. And then we go balls deep into the Darkness tree. We're going to take Reaper's Pursuit. Damaging enemies with darkness skills increases your movement speed by 15%. It's pretty nice just moving pack to pack, being able to have that extra movement speed, and then to get out of those oh shit situations. We have Gloom. When you damage enemies with darkness skills, they take 6% increased shadow damage from you and your minions for 2 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So this is an 18% damage bonus for both you and your mages. So that's one of the big reasons why we took the Dark Mage. Darkness skills deal 9% bonus damage to enemies who are slowed, and a 9% bonus damage to enemies who are stunned or immobilized. These bonuses stack and apply to shadow damage dealt by your minions. Once again, another big damage bonus for our minions, or Dark Mages. And then right here, to ensure that this procs often enough, is Crippling Darkness. Darkness skills have up to a 15% chance to stun enemies, and remember, Blight slows enemies, so this will be up all the time. Over here, we take Golem Mastery, 75% damage and life for your Golem. Over here, Inspiring Leader, we have after being healthy for 4 seconds, you and your minions gain 12% attack speed. Hellbent Commander's great, 30% increased damage while you're close to your minions. And then your minions cannot lose more than 30% of their max life from a single damage instance. This is vital. Now, moving down here, I tried Callan's Edict for a little while, and it's after you have not taken damage in the last 2 seconds, your minions gain 15% attack speed. If you have at least 7 minions, it's up to 30%. The issue is you're getting hit all the time. Maybe if you were far more careful and could pay attention to way more than I could, you could get great benefit from Callan's Edict. I just noticed that I couldn't keep it up enough to make it worth it. So instead I opted for Shadow Blight, which still gives our minions a good bit of damage. Shadow damage infects enemies with Shadow Blight for 2 seconds. You and your minions deal 10% bonus damage to enemies with Shadow Blight. Every 10th time an enemy receives shadow damage from you and your minions while they are affected by Shadow Blight, they take an additional 814 damage. So this is still a pretty good thing to go with. We're still getting a good damage bonus for our minions. I think this would be better if you could keep it up more often. Now, to jump into our Paragon board, a lot of the stuff is the same as in the other 2 builds. I didn't go with the resistance to elements or the armor node yet. We will be taking that armor node at the level 75-80 build, but for right now we take Prime for the extra damage and life. I do take these mostly just because you kind of have to pick and choose, you know. And then we take the Warrior Glyph. Now, I did want to mention this. If you have access to the plus, plus mages, then slot in the mage glyph here. I have the plus skeletal warriors, so obviously we ran warrior on this. Eventually I will end up with both, so it's really just what you have access to right now. If you have access to both, just whichever one you have the most of. If you're running a one-handed weapon, then definitely put one of them up in your amulet and then give them the bonus. If you want to run a two-handed weapon to get the 4 extra summons, then definitely I would probably pick the mages. I think they do the most damage. So over here we do take knowledge for the extra 20% damage, and then the intelligence. And then in this tree we are taking the cult leader tree, and you're gonna want just about every damn glyph on this board. They're all super useful. We got armor clad. It's 8% minion armor plus 10% maximum minion life. Your minions deal 15% increased damage for each minion type you have active. So that is just a flat 45% damage bonus because we have our golem, our warrior, and our mages. Now, one thing I wanted to note about this, the fact that it has to specify skeletal warrior, skeletal mage, and golem makes me think that eventually down the road necromancer will be able to raise more types of minions. So this is pretty exciting. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but it feels weird that they felt the need to specify that. Over here we have infused warrior giving us a big skeletal warrior damage bonus, and then they get a good bit of armor. And like I said before, after you get all these big nodes and then you get the glyph socket right here, you're gonna probably want to go back and get the armor nodes. Just every little bit will help, especially whenever you hit World Tier 4. I mean, stuff in World Tier 4 just rocks your minions' world. So over here we have Custody, 20% damage reduction for your minions, and then 10 intelligence. We have Overlord, more minion damage. If you meet the requirements, you double that damage and then get 10 intelligence. Right here, since I already have the warrior node, I would definitely put the mage node here. Over here we have a big boost to your mage's damage and their resistance to all elements. And so yeah, you're definitely going to want to pick every node in this board. But after that, you have an option. You have Hulking Monstrosity. This is basically the same board, just all of it is applying to your golem. And then you have Wither, giving you big damage bonuses for having doing dark damage. And then the last one is Scent of Death. Now I'm probably going to go with Scent of Death here, because we're finna be entering World Tier 4. We're probably 2 or 3 levels off from doing the Capstone Dungeon, so having all that damage reduction is probably gonna be way better than having extra damage from our golem, at least right at the beginning of World Tier 4. So with all of that out of the way, we're going to talk about our fashion, and I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. We are running everything with purple. We have Heavy Helm, Tunic, Manifers, Primal Chassis, and Primal Sabatons. And then for our Scythe, we are running Spar. It doesn't really matter, so just whatever you think cool, run it. I just thought it'd be cool to give you all my thoughts on what I thought looked cool. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is in our weapon, we are running the purple gems for damage over time increases. And then in my armor, I am running thorns. This you could switch out for anything you want. Probably you would do better with skull gems, to be honest. But I was playing around with the defenders, and it's honestly pretty good. And I might have a separate build coming up pretty shortly, running nothing but thorns. So if you're interested in seeing that, or you're interested in seeing the level 70 to 80 updated builds for Necromancer, Like and subscribe. I definitely plan on doing the level 100 builds. The story videos are on hold for right now. I'm trying to learn some stuff about editing before I put those up, because I really want those to be something special. So, like I said, like, subscribe if you enjoyed. If you didn't, then don't. Either way it goes though, have yourself a very fine day.